If you're wondering what you're looking at, this is the scene of, as you can see, many people in Argentina who are basically cheering. And I covered this in my last video. And as you can see, there are a lot of people, right? So much for social distancing, right? So when it comes to things of this nature, the concept of the virus kind of goes out the window. When it comes to the leftist sort of ideology, the virus doesn't exist, and this is allowed to happen. Now, what you're looking at is actually tens of thousands of women in Argentina who are cheering for the fact that they have now gained the right to abort their children. This is basically what you're seeing. It's basically what they're cheering, that they're happy that they're able to now sacrifice their children and put them to death because they've made a mistake and had a child that they didn't want. And for those who don't know, currently, as this is the end of the year, there have been 42,600,000 abortions globally, which is roughly the equivalent of almost 117,000 babies that are aborted every single day. Every day. 117,000 every day. So you literally, if you didn't stop just one abortion after the other, you would have to go through 117,000 women who were pregnant and had their child ripped from their body because they viewed that child as a mistake. Now, of course, the Bible has a completely different take on what God's viewpoint of children are. In the book of Psalms, it says, "Children are indeed a heritage from the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." And this is very different from what we're seeing today. By and large, many women have been seduced into believing that the right to abort your child is something to be longed for. And like I said in my video from yesterday, that this is basically the result of when countries start to become westernized, when Western influence starts to permeate many of these countries. And this is Latin America. Typically in Latin America, we're viewed a little more religious. We have a little bit more respect for God. I've gone to many different Latin American countries, like, for example, Argentina, Colombia, Cuba. And typically, by and large, most people are God-fearing individuals. So it's a real shame to see my fellow Latinos being misled into believing that this is good. And of course, the Bible talks about woe to those who put light for darkness, and woe to those who say bad is good and good is bad. The result will be the same that you see what is going on in America, which is basically the downfall of America. And of course, it could be taken over by another regime, the communist regime. This is typically what happens in societies when societies are corrupted from within. And this is very shameful to see my Latin people, especially our Latin women, basically cheering and praising and being thankful for the ability to put to death their own offspring. You really have to be completely and utterly misled to imagine that killing your own offspring is something to be cheered for. It's almost hard to understand the level of lack of morality that is existing in our time. But the Bible had foretold that a lot of this would happen. So I really am not surprised that this is what we're seeing. Again, this isn't in America, where America have been aborting babies for years. This is in a Hispanic country like Argentina, where typically many of these individuals have a reverence for God. But of course, it is not shown in the actions of the individuals. And like I've said, most people who are red pill or who believe in that sort of thinking understand that this is only a reflection of the weak men of the nation, because most men would view their children as a reward, right? Especially if you look back, a couple of 100 years, the importance of children was necessary. You needed children to tend to the fields for protection as you got older. Bible talked extensively about this, and it amazes me how far away we have come, how far away women have come from men, to the standpoint that they would willing to sacrifice their own child and to view that child as a mistake. Nothing good will come from the choices that they've just made. This will, of course, will only result in more abortions. And there's always the course of, oh, what if someone was raped, etc. But that's like outliers. You can't look at all this sea of women and imagine that all these women, of course, you have all these women that are getting raped and are getting pregnant. That's just a rhetoric that people utilize. It's a false argument that people utilize to try to justify the murder of the unborn. Shocking. Truly, truly shocking that these are the days that we live in. But hey, this is what they want. And God will give them what they want to their own destruction.